Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake customers as employees, and the stories are frickin' ridiculous. And in today's episode, guys, it's all about Karens making wild assumptions and getting embarrassed. I hope you enjoy the stories. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. This story was told to me by my dad, so this is all secondhand. Here's some background. My dad is a 50-year-old Hispanic man, and he looks it. He's got dark skin, brown eyes, and a mustache. He also takes pride in his appearance, and he looks like a refined cowboy when he dresses up. Straw hat, neatly pressed button-up shirt, black jeans, and spit-shined boots. He's also very social, and his work is his second family. So if there is a party, a convention, or any kind of get-together, he will be there. So with that said, this took place during one of my dad's work conventions. My dad and his coworkers checked into their hotel and decided to go to the lobby that had a taco bar set up for the guests. It had discounted margaritas, a live mariachi band for entertainment, and unlimited food. So it was perfect for my dad and his buddies to have dinner and relax. This was an informal gathering, so my dad was wearing his cowboy getup, and everybody who knew him knew who he was. My dad was milling around, making his rounds, making sure to shake hands and talk to everyone there. At one point, he went in line to the taco bar to have his dinner, and this is how he put it. A snooty woman who called herself the manager just taps him on the shoulder and starts pestering him. The woman says to my dad, "Excuse me, sir, this bar is only for guests. You'll have to eat elsewhere." My dad tells her, "I am a guest." That's when the Karen says, "Let me see your key pass. This bar is for guests only, not band members. You guys need to go somewhere else." So my dad tries to explain that he's not a band member of the mariachi band, but the manager won't let up, and this is where my dad starts getting mad. The woman would not listen to a single word my dad was saying. My dad then says, "Why should I show you my key pass? Why won't you look at my friends' key passes?" Another thing that everyone knows about my dad is that he'll be nice only once, and then he'll get in your face if you keep pushing him. Again, my dad tried to be polite, but that stubborn Karen manager would not let it go. She kept insisting that my dad go sit with the band members. And that's when my dad decides to escalate the situation. My dad then said the magic words, "I want to talk to your supervisor. I want to talk to him about your conduct." And hearing that, that's when the manager starts apologizing profusely. The woman's supervisor was called. And even though the man tried to cover for her, my dad was already pissed off, and he was not going quietly. He accused the manager and supervisor of being racially insensitive, and kept asking why he was the only one being called out and why she kept thinking he was a part of the mariachi band. Now, this was not the first time my father had been mistaken for a service worker, and he always believed in making the accuser so uncomfortable that they'll keep him in mind next time they wrongfully profile another person. At this point, he has the entire lobby and the rest of the guests listening in, and most likely on his side, judging Karen and her supervisor. The supervisor was red in the face and was finding any way to de-escalate the situation. Finally, he apologized for like the 50th time to my dad and asked if there was anything he could do to make this right. My dad then seized the opportunity and said, "In that case, I would like to have my dinner at this taco bar for free, and I want my table to have free drinks all night." The supervisor was quick to jump at the chance to calm Dad down and satisfy the rest of the guests. My dad still tells this story, and he'll always be the proud Hispanic boy who takes no crap from anyone, especially snooty Karens who run their mouths way too much. Guys, good on Dad for standing up to that Karen manager. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous how many times he had to tell her that he wasn't a part of the mariachi band. Like, you would think that after one time, the manager would have realized and been like, "Oh, I'm so terribly sorry." But some frickin' people, right? And I'm sure those tacos tasted even better after that sweet victory. So this story didn't happen to me, nor was I a part of it. My friend Annie gave me permission to share her story. So for some background, Annie's a friend of mine whom I met in college. We share classes together. She moved here from China not too long ago, and this story takes place about 6 months after she moved. She's incredibly smart, hardworking, and witty. That's just a few of the many things I love about her. She's also a ridiculously good cook, and oftentimes makes me some delicious traditional Chinese recipes. Well, in our area, there's a really cute, authentic Chinese restaurant. The restaurant owner immigrated from China in the late 80s with his family, and he brought with him all of his recipes that have been in the family for years. The restaurant's very popular in the community, and he's doing very well for himself and his family. He's also super friendly and loves to chat with his customers, whom are mostly Chinese immigrants like himself. Annie loves the place because it reminds her of home, and it tastes like real food they have back at home. Well, one afternoon, Annie and another friend of hers, Liv, decide to treat themselves and eat out. And on this particular afternoon, the restaurant was more busy than usual. It's a small place, so not a lot of seating options when it's a full house. One of the waiters asked her if she and her friend wouldn't mind splitting one of the big round tables with a family, a mother, father, and their 2 teenage daughters. They agreed, and while the waiter was showing them to their table, he was called away, but told Annie and Liv to continue to seat themselves. Now, for a bit more detail, Annie was wearing black, which were the employee colors, but she was clearly not wearing a waitressing outfit. She was wearing a cute black sundress, while her friend Liv, who's American by the way, was wearing some fancy burgundy trousers and a matching top. Both of them were clearly not employees. When they both arrived at the table and took a seat, the mom, before either of them could explain the situation, exclaimed, "Finally! We've been waiting for so long to give our orders, but our stupid waiter's been so busy running around. I swear he's doing it on purpose." So caught off guard and a bit shocked, both Annie and Liv just kind of stared at the woman and then at each other. Liv then says, I'm afraid we don't. And that's when the woman interrupts and says, "We're ready to order right now." I've also never heard of waitstaff sitting down to take orders. It comes across very disrespectful. You need to stand up, young lady. Annie looked at the woman even more confused, and that's when Liv and one of her daughters spoke at the same time. Her daughter says, "Mom, I don't think she works here." While Annie's friend Liv said to her, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here. We're customers, and we were told to sit here at this big table." Karen just ignores everything that was said, and she says, "Nonsense. Look at her outfit. Are you going to take our order or what? Do you not speak English? Do I need to speak Chinese to you?" At this point, even the husband bravely tried to intervene. He says, "Honey, please stop. She clearly doesn't work here." But Karen doesn't listen to him either. She says, "Of course she does. She's Chinese, and she is wearing black." The woman then reaches over and she snaps her fingers twice in Annie's face. She then says, "Don't make me repeat myself. I'll get the owner involved." The snapping is what threw Annie over the edge. She kind of aggressively slaps the woman's hand out of her face because she continued her snapping. And Annie says, "Just because I'm Chinese doesn't mean I work here. My friend and I are here to eat, and don't you ever do that to anyone who you may suspect is a waiter again. It's extremely offensive." Karen then says, "Excuse me? Who do you think you are? You just slapped my hand and that's assault. I'll get you fired." I'm sure the owner would love to know that one of his employees attacked a customer. That's when Liv speaks up again and she says, "Hey crazy, my friend doesn't work here." Her and Annie then share another look, one that clearly read, "This chick is crazy for some hands." Karen then says, "All of you, shut it. You." The woman points a stern finger at Annie as if she's about to ground her for life. She then says, "Get the F out of my sight and get the effing owner or manager. I don't care who at this point. Just get someone and leave." At this point, Liv gets up to find the waiter and to explain the situation. When she arrives back with the waiter to the scene, the woman is standing up, leaning over Annie while loudly spitting racial slurs at her. The waiter says, "Excuse me, ma'am, what seems to be the problem?" The question was directed at Annie, but the crazy mom interrupts and says, "She refused to take our order, and she assaulted me, and she's treated me and my family very disrespectfully. I would like to have a word with the owner. Bring him out." The woman's husband and 2 daughters look extremely embarrassed, and they have some variation of their hand on their face, looking anywhere but up. The waiter very calmly looks between the woman and Annie and says, "Ma'am, if you couldn't tell, she doesn't work here. She's a customer. And since this table is an extra large table, I asked her to split this table with you, as we don't have enough seating space at the moment." Again, I can assure you that she doesn't work here. I know all my employees, and she's not one of them. During the crazy woman's rant, she failed to notice that the owner has strolled over to investigate the commotion. Before she can say anything back, the owner has a conversation with Annie in Chinese, where the situation's explained. The woman finally realizes her mistake and she turns pale, trying to explain herself. The woman was stammering, saying, well, you see, I could have sworn. So yeah, the rest of the table explained what happened, and without missing a beat, the owner kindly tells the woman and her family that they must leave. Annie and Liv were moved to a more private table and they got a free meal that night. They continue to eat there till this day, and the woman, as far as Annie knows, hasn't shown up since. And why would she, right? After causing such a big scene. And honestly, what amazes me, guys, is how far that woman was willing to go, and that she chose that hill to die on despite warnings from her own family. So this happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it's one of those interactions that I haven't forgotten. First, a little background. My father used to work in China, and because of this, I'd spend much of my childhood in China and Hong Kong. I developed a little routine whenever we were traveling, which is really just me stopping by the airport's bookstores and bringing home my latest haul of books. When this story happened, we were in Hong Kong airport and we'd already passed immigration. We were already inside. My mom and our bags were hanging by the gate, waiting for boarding. And as usual, I'm in the bookstore, looking for books I can buy. I have my headphones plugged in, looking for books I could buy when this woman, a Karen, approaches me. Now, she didn't look like a Karen, to be honest. She was a bit taller than me, had long hair, and she was dressed in some trendy looking clothes. She reminded me of the typical models that you'd see in Chinese magazines, actually. The woman then says to me, "Excuse me," and my deeply ingrained instincts to be polite kicks in. I turn to her and say, "Yes. How may I help you?" I also want to note that by this point, I have a book in my hand. Karen says, "I'm trying to look for this issue of this magazine." I'm confused, but still trying to be polite, so I say, "Have you checked the magazine stands?" Now I think the question might have ticked her off because I made her look stupid or something. The store was small enough that you could just stand in the middle to see the store's entirety. And if you're trying to look for a magazine, the first thing you'll logically do is to approach the magazine stands with the labels for the word magazine written in 4 different languages, which was what she did, of course. Karen now looked annoyed and said, "Yes, I already did that, that's why I'm asking you." I replied, "I'm sorry, I don't know where to find the magazine you're looking for. I've never even heard of said magazine." I then say, "Maybe you can go to the cashier and ask them if they know." At this point, the only staff that was present was the cashier, maybe 2 feet away from us. The Karen looks even more annoyed as she says, "How can you not know? You work here." Me, now realizing what's happening, say, I don't. I'm just looking for a book I can buy." I then hold up the book in my hand. Karen just looks less annoyed and more confused. She then looks at the book in my hand, back to my face, takes in the clothes I'm wearing, and that's when I think, she finally realizes I don't work here, because I'm obviously not wearing the red staff uniform. She then says the magic words. She says, "But you're Filipino." I say to her, surprised, "Yes, I'm Filipino." Karen then says, with all the entitlement possible, "So, you work here." That's when I think I'm Filipino, so I must work there. And for those who don't know, there's many Filipinos in Hong Kong. Filipinos, if I remember correctly, make up the largest ethnic minority in Hong Kong. Many of these Filipinos work as domestic workers in Hong Kong, so I guess the common racist conception is that all Filipinos in Hong Kong are workers there. Karen's still waiting for my response, looking more and more pissed off. I just stare at her, eyebrow raised and lips pursed, trying to summon all the sassiness I possibly could. After a while, Karen seems to get flustered by me staring her down. She mutters some excuse, and she shuffles along to the cashier who helps her. And that's it. It's not a super exciting story, just incredibly annoying. Yep, gotta love that casual racism, right? You're a foreigner, so you must be a servant. And guys, I love the fact that OP did not say a word and just stared down that Karen. Like, what a great way of calling out her stupid attitude and making her realize it without saying a word. So I'm Armenian American, and I kind of look Armenian and kind of American, but I have a ginger beard. On this day, I was wearing basketball shorts, a black t-shirt, along with my white gold necklace. I went to Best Buy with a friend and his mother. We were in the home theater section. I'm just helping them pick out some speakers, explaining in Armenian how the home theater components work, when all of a sudden I feel a tug on my necklace. I turned around angrily to see a man in his mid-40s or so. I'll just call him A-hole. The guy says to me, "Can you hurry up with them and help out the rest of the people here? And you shouldn't be talking in foreign languages in America, especially while you're working." That's when I tell him I don't work here, and if you touch me again, we're gonna have a problem. The a-hole says, "You don't get to talk to customers like that and still have a job. Where's your manager? This isn't whatever craphole country you came from. You can't treat people like this here." The irony was not lost on me, and I was getting very mad. My friend knows that when I start smiling when I'm angry, I get a little stupid. So he tells me to relax and kind of guides me away from him. Security's coming over at this point, so the a-holes decided to follow my friend and me. The a-hole keeps ranting, and as I'm trying to stay calm, my friend's doing his best impression of a peace-filled monk. For some context, I have a shaved head to go with a beard. I don't look super friendly. Security comes to me first, and he asked me to go with him. So I agree, and tell my friend and his mom to come to get away from the a-hole. As security's walking with us to sort out what's going on, the a-hole decides to poke the side of my face, and this causes a problem as I push the guy away angrily. But thankfully my friend grabs me and keeps me from retaliating. The a-hole then spits on my friend while trying to spit on me, and then he says some more racist things. Security then goes to grab the a-hole, but before he even gets there, we hear a loud smack, and then we see a-hole stumble a few steps to the left. My friend's mother, who's in her late 50s, had taken off her thick-soled immigrant sandal, and she had smacked the man on the side of his face. And she smacked him hard, very hard. If anyone knows what those sandals are like, they're like the ultimate weapon in the hand of a mother. I would rather deal with a Navy SEAL than a mother with those sandals. Security then grabs the guy, and my friend calms down his mom, and then the cops arrive. After taking statements, the guy gets arrested for a couple counts of assault and battery. I do get confused for a worker all the time, especially if I speak Armenian to someone else. This was the first time it had gotten physical, and only the third time I had a confrontational exchange about it. I couldn't believe it actually happened for a couple of hours, and I'm still weirded out by it. Yeah, how that guy thought OP was a Best Buy employee when dressed in basketball shorts and a t-shirt is beyond me, guys. With that said, OP's friend totally saved that a-hole from a beating, I'm pretty sure. Like, who the heck tugs on someone's necklace from behind and then goes to taunt someone by poking them in the face? And in my opinion, the guy was lucky a smack to the face with a sandal was all he got, because you never want to mess with random strangers. You never know what somebody is capable of, guys. So this happened to my mom. My mom's like 49 years old, and she looks like she's in her 30s. She's got light brown skin, and she always looks very well put together. My mom dresses really classy, always in dresses or trousers, nice tops, shirts, blouses, always in high heels, and carries a handbag. She'll do her makeup and hair just to get some groceries. If you see her on the street, you'll think she's a career woman with a nice position at some company or firm. That's what people always assume and ask. So now that you've read my description, on this day, she was mistaken as a clothing store employee for a thrift store, where employees wear just a basic t-shirt and name tag. My mom was walking around, taking a look, holding a few pieces of clothing she wanted to try on, and all of a sudden, a woman walks towards her and she rudely asked her, "Hey, do you know the price of this trench coat?" My mom was confused by it, but she didn't think much of it. And because she had bought herself the same trench coat a couple of weeks before, she knew the price, and she kindly told the lady, "I'm pretty sure that one's $90. And the lady said it was way too expensive, and my mom continued to look around. A few minutes later, the same lady grabs my mom's shoulder and she basically screams at her and says, "Go see if you have this shoe in this size in the back." My mom was like, "What? Who do you think you're talking to?" The lady then looked at my mom and says, "You work here, don't you? So go do your job and get my shoes." My mom then pushed her away as she was still in her face and told her, "No, I don't work here." That's when the Karen replies, "Well, if you don't work here, how did you know the price of the trench coat?" My mom tells her because I bought 2 of them a couple of weeks ago, and I remembered paying $180 for both. Hearing that, the lady's in absolute silence, and that's when my mom proceeds to ask, am I dressed like an employee? Look around you, employees here wear a t-shirt that has the name of the place on it with a name tag. And the crazy lady just said, well, you just look like the type of person that would work in retail. My mom couldn't believe what she had heard, and she walked away from her thinking, what a racist bitch. So let me tell you about the time that I mistook someone for a worker and it got kind of racy. It was my first time in a certain upscale grocery store, and I didn't know my way around the place or the dress code or whatever. I see a guy with a red collared shirt and a notepad with a list of food items on it like meats, cheeses, and bread. The guy's standing near an employee stockroom entrance, kind of surveying the store, and context clues make me think that the guy's a manager or something. So I walk up to him and ask where something is, and the guy snaps at me saying, do I look like I work here? I just apologize and walk away, and the guy screams after me, yeah, I work here, and everything's free today, so fill your pockets and walk out the store. So I do a little more shopping, and I'm a little embarrassed, but I'll get over it because shame is my life. But while I'm looking at jams, I hear somebody snap at me saying, excuse me, miss, I was just wondering why you thought I was an employee? And I'm just baffled. I apologize again. And I can't even explain the shirt and the employee entrance or whatever because he keeps going. The guy just screams at me saying, you racist bitch. You saw a black man in a store like this, so you assumed he must work there, right? And I'm like, no, I thought because your shirt and you were standing there and... He then interrupts me and says, does this look like an employee's shirt to you? This is a red shirt. Do you see any other employee wearing a red shirt? And before I could say it was my first time in the store, and I don't know the damn dress code, he calls me racist again, and he says racism comes in all forms. He then repeats it firmer and then walks away. I then notice a woman in the jam aisle staring at me confused, and with a thick German accent, she asked, what was that? I say to her, I don't know, I honestly thought he worked here. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that guy. Like, maybe the red shirt did make him look like an employee, and OP was like the 10th person to ask him something that day and made him explode. Or maybe the dude was having a bad day, who knows. With that said though, some people can be jerks. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /entitledpeople episode, where an entitled Karen family robs OP's dad's home and they get taught a lesson they won't forget. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.